Hey YouTube, Red Hair 151 here. Just wanted to give you a quick video update on my 2003 Honda Civic. If you watched another video of mine, I've been trying to figure out a problem with my cooling system. In particular, the reservoir was overflowing. Which obviously is not normal to do. And yeah, this is an update on that problem to let you know that I fixed it. And I fixed it by changing the cylinder head gasket. Looking into the reservoir one day, I noticed I saw coolant bubbles. Bubbles coming up in through the coolant in the reservoir, which as you know is not a good thing. What I determined was happening was air was pushing past the cylinder head gasket on a compression stroke, which caused air to fill up or pressurize the cooling system around the block, and then thus displacing coolant out of the block and into the reservoir somehow. Yeah, coolant bubbles in the reservoir, not a good thing. It's operating, running just fine now. As you can see, I've got coolant into the radiator cap there. I've got the coolant in the reservoir now. No bubbles are forming inside of it. I elected to do the job myself just because I am very particular and meticulous and all that other stuff. I like working on my own car. Just gives me that much more pride and satisfaction in knowing that if something goes wrong, it's my fault, or if something goes wrong, I know how to fix it, what the problem is, etc., etc. Not to mention the fact that doing this job myself, I saved at least $800 in labor. The Honda dealer wanted at least $750, and I just thought, well, screw you guys. Basically, decided to do it myself. And while I was going to be doing this job, I wanted to go ahead and change the timing belt and the water pump, the main seal down there, the camshaft seal here. I wanted to do the valve clearances because they had never been done. Wanted to change other gaskets, the intake and manifold gasket while I had it off. I really cleaned the valve cover. The mating surface in particular for the gasket here to adhere to is just really clean and bone dry now. Just no oil seepage coming from anywhere. I think before I used to have some oil down there, but before I did this job, there seemed to be an oil leak that I thought was coming from the oil pan down at the bottom, and it turns out that it was oil coming from the valve cover gasket from behind it here, leaking down the engine and making it look like the oil pan gasket or seal itself was compromised, but I don't think it was. I could see a trail of oil coming from up there. Anyways, did all this other work to it. New radiator hoses, upper and lower. Just cleaned the engine block, just cleaning it wherever I could. Had to get a new alternator because this positive terminal stud or whatever part this is right here was busted off on me inside of the alternator, and I didn't feel like getting it machined out of there or extracted or rebuilt or whatever, so I just decided to get a new one. After 12 years, maybe it deserves it, who knows. Anyways, it's got a lifetime warranty on it, so it's good enough for me. What else? Yeah, basically did this whole job myself. It was pretty hectic in some instances. I had the garage just full of parts. Looked like a transformer exploded in there. But yeah, cylinder head gasket. Cylinder head was machined at the shop. They took some off. They said it was warped. What caused it to warp, I'm not too sure. I think it may have overheated one time, but then again, I think that was just a freak occurrence because I was just driving down the road, and I was at a a drive-through, getting some food, and all of a sudden the temperature gauge just swings up wildly whenever the fans kicked on. But went back down whenever I started driving again, so I didn't really think much of it. At the time I knew something was going on with the cooling system, but I didn't realize it was the cylinder head gasket. But anyways, I remachined that, put in some new valve seals, pressure tested it, and shaved it off. Did something else, I forget. Cleaned everything up, cleaned the valve stems and valve seats themselves for about $300. And oh, by the way, whenever you go to get or turn in your cylinder head to a machine shop, if you don't go there very often or you don't have much experience with it, you're a shady tree mechanic like myself, make sure you know exactly what you expect from them and that they know what they are supposed to do, what they're getting paid to do by you. I handed them my cylinder head, and it had the camshaft and the rocker arm assembly still attached to it, and they gave it back to me with the rocker arm assembly just loosely attached. So I thought that was, I don't know, messed up or whatever. I was expecting to get a fully assembled cylinder head back, but it wasn't the case. There's this guy called Schrodinger's Box on YouTube. I'll put a link to it in the description. I followed a lot of his advice, as well as a lot of other advice from other people on YouTube of exactly how to change a cylinder head gasket, how to prepare the surfaces and make sure everything is level and all, this and that. But Schrodinger's Box had a couple of really good videos that I got a lot of advice from, so kudos to that guy. Basically, it's just a matter of getting everything off, undoing screws, put the wrench to it, get everything off that you can. Basically, here's the cylinder head. You got to get the valve cover off, you got to get the spark plugs out, the coils off, this off, the cables to the throttle body off, all of the sensors, the wiring harness right here just folds over that way. Power steering off, alternator off, the brackets off. You got to support the bottom of the engine, and yeah, get your timing belt covers off. This and that, and this water manifold. I think that's what it's called, the water manifold over here. Get that off. Actually, I undid everything. Basically, the wiring harness, spark plugs, coils, cables off, and basically loosened the intake manifold brackets down at the bottom, from the bottom, and pulled the water manifold. The valve cover was off, and the cylinder head and the intake manifold all together off at one point, and then did further disassembly on the workbench. It was kind of a bitch to get out, but it happened. Putting it back on, I just did the cylinder head by itself, just to avoid possibly damaging the cylinder head gasket and my perfectly clean level surface on both the block and the cylinder head. Yeah, everything was torqued to specs. Used assembly grease on the camshaft when putting it back together. I made sure that the pistons were cleaned off. Everything was just cleaned, and I really took my time to prepare everything to get put back together. Just took my time with it, basically, and I think it turned out pretty well so far. It's holding. I think I have about 100 miles on this new head gasket. I changed the oil yesterday after 75 miles, I think, and now I'm just gonna run it the way it is. Yeah, and that's the update on my cylinder head gasket cooling system problem I was having on my 2003 Honda Civic EX. So, damn, it's hot. Almost burn yourself on the hood and everything. Yeah, Red Hair 151. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you'd like to see any other videos or ask me any other questions on what I've done to the car. It's at 125,000 miles now. And yeah, by the way, from what I've been reading, the cylinder head gaskets are supposed to go bad on these things at around that mileage, 125,000. So if anyone else is driving out there with a head gasket that hasn't been changed, beware. You might be driving a ticking time bomb like I was, or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Once again, Red Hair 151 signing off.